The dudes with the booths and the bottles and the Lamborghini and all the cool stuff engage the young girls. They invite them up. They show them a great time. They become their boyfriends. They shower them with gifts. They take them out to the expensive restaurant for months. And then one day, they're like, well, I've done all this stuff for you. I need you to do one thing for me. And they take them to someone's house, hotel room, a vacation to another country, and they force them to sleep with someone.
Welcome back to the Alex Witherow Show. Today I have a very interesting guest. She is an interior designer and a survivor of human trafficking. Before I get into that, I want to make sure that you see the Patreon link down below. We do have a great community in there. It has lots of different chat groups with regards to all of our different episodes. Check it out. Lots of great content in that group. Without further ado, Anel De Castro, great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
I know today is... I know this is a little bit more of a heavy topic. I know you're a human trafficking advocate. You have survived being trafficked at one point in your life. I really kind of just want to dive into just your story, how that happened originally, and I know you just released a book about it 6 months ago, I believe.
Yeah.
And talk to me about just what inspired the book, just take me from the beginning of this story, and really kind of, how, and I know you're very involved with human trafficking in an organization in Miami.
Yeah.
I just looked up some stats earlier. I mean, Miami is a very big hub worldwide for trafficking.
Number 3 in the country.
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of ports here, a lot of transportation infrastructure. It's very easy to, ship kids, unfortunately, in and out of this area. So yeah, take me from the top of this story.
So, well, thank you so much for having me here. It really is an honor. Anytime that I get to talk about my story, I always take it as a big responsibility. I feel like a lot of people think when they hear the word human trafficking, they think about, a child getting shoved into a van. And that does happen a lot. However, that's not the only way that it happens. It could be, a week or two ago, we had a news story where a church in Georgia was busted for human trafficking, labor trafficking. They were harboring about 50 adults that were being held with labor trafficking, and people went to that church for years every Sunday and not noticed.
Right.
So the reason why I'm such a big advocate is because human trafficking is so broad, and it has no socioeconomic, no age limit. It could be children as young as newborns all the way until old people. Yeah. And how that happens is we live in an age where we use people and love things instead of loving people and using things. We have been so desensitized in our society to literally to just use people. And so it's very easy for things to literally be in your face and you're not even aware of them, that they're wrong, that they shouldn't be happening. And we have normalized this kind of, I call it the unspoken epidemic, because it's so prevalent. I mean, we're talking about a $150 billion industry that's combined. That's like all of the salaries of all of the football players and all of the sports and all of Hollywood combined do not even reach $150 billion.
Yeah, and I think, I saw Sound of Freedom. I think that was really the first time anyone really started understanding the depth and gravity of this problem.
Yeah.
And really understood like how bad and how gross it really is.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, I know you're a survivor of this. I know this obviously happened a long time ago for you, but what happened exactly?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you mentioned the Sound of Freedom, because that movie is based... the main character that Jim Caviezel plays is a real man named Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard, the first time that I heard about Tim Ballard was actually in person. I was, I want to say it was like 2016. I was at a business conference. I'm already in my early 30s at that point. Business conference. I'm in Iowa. There's a intermission to one of the sessions, and this guy, white guy, comes on stage with a bar stool and a microphone, and he's talking about he's an ex-FBI agent, and he's talking about this mission that changed his life, and he's talking about human trafficking. In the background, though, behind him is a giant screen playing CCTV, like white and black footage from the mission he's talking about. And there were certain points in that footage of children being taken, of them being shoved. There was actually a scene of a child being shoved in a car or a van, and it triggered what I thought my entire adult life was a reoccurring dream. It triggered a memory. It was like the first time that I'm like, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
I thought it was a dream, but it was actually a memory.
That's very common. I can tell you firsthand that I grew up with a very close family member who had been sexually abused at a very young age, at like age 6, and it didn't resurface in her own mind until her 30s. Yeah. So I know that's a very common thing to have happen if something terrible happened at a young age. But please continue.
Yeah, no, because your brain is an incredible machine, and so what it'll do is something that I found out recently is that a really young brain is programmed to do two things: to black out certain parts of trauma, and also the neurons rewire themselves to think that it's normal. It's one of the reasons, so it's been scientifically been proven why people who have been abused tend to continue being in abuse and later become abusers. That's why it's a cycle. So your brain actually programs itself for abuse. The younger the brain goes through that abuse, the more susceptible it is to stay in abusive situations and then perpetuate the abuse later.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
No,
so,
and I've seen that firsthand in my own life.
Same.
Same. Yeah.
And so I was born in Dominican Republic, and I'll tell you the dream. So when I was around 5, in Dominican Republic, my mom was already divorced from my dad, and we had several people that would help, that were hired help. One of them specifically was, this one lady who would pick me up from school every day like clockwork, and then we would come home, and she would help me with my homework and get me bathed and ready for dinner until my mom came home. And so me and my brother. But I remember at that time, my mom would go and she was an executive at a company. So she would take day trips to certain parts of the country to do certain things for her job. So we were left with these people to take care of us. Right. So this lady lived in our house, and she knew the schedule of the household. So I remember one time I was waiting outside of school, and, it began very typical, and I don't ever remember her picking me up late. Like, it's specifically because you don't want your kid to be hanging out on the sidewalk in Dominican Republic with, by themselves.
My family wasn't so good at that, but, we weren't in the Dominican Republic.
At that time, it was a third world country, and the way that where the school was placed, first of all, it's a school that's K through 12. Yeah. So you wouldn't want a 5-year-old hanging out by themselves with, high school and middle school students around as well. Sure. So it was very specific for her to be there on time every day. I would usually come out of school and she would be there. Yeah. So when I started to notice that all of the kids were leaving, and I was still there, even at that young age, I could feel that something was off. Mm-hmm. Like it was something was wrong. When she finally showed up, she was very rough with me, like screaming and like being like very rough with me. And there was a cemetery across from the school that we would, there were like vendors on the sidewalk, and we would go around. She would buy me candy or little toys that the vendors were selling, and then on our way home. This time she actually walked me through the entire cemetery, which as a little kid is incredibly scary. And, you know, I can tell you, I remember the smell of like death,
Right.
like dirt and heat and death. And then at the end of what seemed like the path to go on forever, that's what it seemed like, to a little kid. I remember her like dragging me at one point. She shoves me in this car that, in the book I call it a bruised tomato, because it was like, ironically enough, like like a rust red car with rust spots on it, obviously an older car. And inside is, I don't know if it was like a relative of hers, or it was a man with dark skin and gray hair, perfectly white hair. They were speaking a language that I didn't understand. And at this point, I'm in the back of the car's moving. Remember, there was a hole on the floor of the car because I could see the road, and I was too little to see over the side of the window, like, to see where I was going. After some time, we arrived to wherever they took me, and it's out in the country in the Dominican Republic. There's these houses that are made of wood, like wood slats. Very similar if you've ever been to New Orleans, how the houses are made of like wood slats. Like
Sure,
that.
sure.
So like that.
Yeah.
And I could tell that the paint was like chipping off. It was an old house. It wasn't like a nice maintained house. It was a really old, dilapidated house. When they bring me in, there's no floor, so it's just dirt. There's only one wall, which is some sort of makeshift kitchen, and then everything is just open space. It wasn't a very big. It's like a one-room house. And then I see that there's a small mattress, almost like a baby crib mattress, with a small black and white TV playing my favorite cartoons, because she would know that. They sit me down on the mattress and they proceed to give me, in the country, there's very specific things that are very unique to our country. So like these like metal mugs where you would make coffee or hot chocolate or whatever. So that's something that was very typical. So they served me, whatever they served me, it tasted like medicine. And then I black out. And so this happens several times where I'm crying, they give me this liquid, and then I black out. And then I wake up sometime later and I'm still there. I cry some more. They give me, so from what I remember, this happened about 5 times.
So this go on for a period of days?
No, I was gone from what I was able later when I asked my mom about it, well into my 30s. After this experience in the conference, I come back home and I have obviously no idea what the hell's going on. So I get the courage to ask my mom about it. And that was already 2 years after the conference. I was battling with this inside, trying to understand what happened and trying to piece it together. And I got to a point where I had to ask my mom to like, okay, Mom, I just need to know if this happened. I need to know like what's real and what I know that the brain makes up things to fill in gaps for things. And I just need to know like if this is what happened. And so when I told my mom, we figured out that it was between 8 to 12 hours that I was gone.
Okay. Yeah.
So the last time that it happens, I wake up in my bed and I'm showered in my jammies and my house is dark. So it was already late, which is why I thought it was a dream for the majority of my life. But it was something it was a reoccurring nightmare, I would say, nightmare my entire adult life. From the time that I can remember, like I said, well into my 30s. So when I started to ask my mom about, like, oh, well, I remember I was wearing this. And she was like, yeah, that was your school uniform. And I remember that the school looked like this. She's like, yeah, that was your school.
What did your mom think about? I mean, I assume at some point your mom was like, where's my daughter?
Well, later I found out.
Yeah.
My mom is so innocent and very trusting, especially back in those days, that there were moments where these people who had lived with us for years, who she trusted,
right,
were so in love with me and my brother that they asked to take us to their home, to their family, so that she could take a break for the weekend And it could have been one of those instances where she had consented for someone that she trusted to babysit us or to take us for the weekend. So that was a possibility as well.
Okay, so basically, do you think that your housekeeper had any malintent?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that lady lived with us for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if she was manipulated by this man to take me. But she didn't look. It didn't look like when she was in the car. What I remember, I remember thinking, like, I don't know if it was her dad or her husband or a relative or someone that she didn't know. She could have been blackmailed as well. I mean, those are all possibilities. I don't know those details. Again, I was 5.
Yeah.
But as an adult, just thinking through it, and knowing what I know now, piecing it together, that was definitely a possibility.
Was there anything, I mean, obviously you were, I guess, drugged multiple times. I mean, do you remember much that happened beyond that?
No, and I'm so thankful. Like, what a protection. There are people who are like, oh, you should get hypnotized. I'm like, no. I personally have chosen to not continue down that path. I already know enough to know that it was of a sexual nature. I know that. There's no reason to take a kid from their house and be all mysterious about it and then shove them on a mattress and drug them to watch them sleep. That's not what happened.
Right.
So I don't need to be hypnotized to go down that path. I don't want to do that. I know enough.
Yeah. And I guess so from there, you in your as an adult, you remember all of this stuff, this story. How did the fallout happen as an adult? As someone who watched this similar sort of thing happen with somebody else, there was a massive fallout with a family member in my own family where they all of a sudden started remembering all these things, and it triggered just kind of this avalanche of memories. It really forced her to confront everything. It really forced her to go through therapy and an extensive healing process.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the same thing happened to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing about 10 years of transformative work, therapy, Jesus. Tried everything. Tried Jesus.
Yeah.
To radically change my life. And so that's all part of my testimony. It's the book.
Yeah.
So about a year after all of this is happening, I started, not to plug a program, but a program called Landmark, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I've heard of Landmark.
Yeah,
Landmark's very popular up in New York City, I know.
Oh, okay. So I'm a very senior graduate of Landmark. I've been like 8 years of Landmark. Incredible programs that helped me remove the emotion from what happened and look at what happened as what happened. I don't have to live in that past. I don't have to be angry. I don't have to continue, harboring that inside of me. And there was a moment, even reading scripture, where I'm like, you know what? God asked us to forgive 70 times 7. And I choose to move forward with my life by not continuing to harbor these feelings. Speaking with my mom, for her, it was really powerful because one of the things that happened was, my 5-year-old brain made the story up of I'm alone, I'm not loved, I'm not wanted, and the world is a dangerous place. And it made me remove myself emotionally and for the most part physically from my family. Because it was like, well, if they cared, they would have been there. If they cared, they would have done something.
Right.
And then again, I was 5. No one talked about it. No one said anything to me. And my mind made up that they knew it and then they didn't want to confront it. So literally at 5, I remember my mom telling me, she was like, you were the most quiet, sweetest baby. And there was a moment where you changed and you were just angry. You were like, my nickname was the lemon.
Yeah.
And she's like, you were just like, the word was insoportable. Like you just could not, we couldn't deal with you.
Yeah.
And so you were angry and you were nasty and she's like, I couldn't put my finger on what happened to my child. I knew something happened. I couldn't understand. My mom looked for bruises, for physical bruises. She's like, did someone hit her? Did she fall? Did someone say something? Like, she couldn't put it together. And obviously it was devastating for my mother. Yeah. And for my father, because I ended up telling my dad too.
Yeah. I'm sure there was immense guilt on their side.
And I put them through hell.
Yeah.
You know, because I blamed them for a long time.
Yeah.
And so telling them was really cathartic for both of us, you know, for all of us. Because it finally made sense as to why I distanced myself from my family. You know, the relationship with my brother hasn't been great from the time that I can remember for that same reason. And so, you know, they got their daughter back at 34.
Yeah.
You know, which is a relief that I get to have the chance to rekindle that relationship with all three of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're still here. But there was so much time lost.
Yeah. Do you feel like throughout your 20s, you're like, I can't be around these people. They didn't protect me.
Oh, I got married.
Yeah.
I escaped from one house to another. At 19, I met who would be my husband and my ex-husband. And couldn't get out of there fast enough. Could not leave my mom's house fast enough. And it was an escape. You know, and I thought that this guy was my knight in shining armor and life was going to be different. I couldn't wait to leave my house.
Right.
You know, so as a matter of fact, I left my house before that. I was 15 when I left my mom's house to go live with my uncle and complete high school in a better school district, which again was part of that rebellion that I didn't want to be in that nuclear home environment.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I was hyper independent from a very, very young age.
Do you feel like, so with all this history and, do you feel like, so I know you're pretty involved in communities now or an organization that deals with, human trafficking. How has that experience propelled you into the work you do now?
Oh, 100%. I mean, because so that happened when I was 5, but there were so many other things that happened in my young childhood. I'm talking about, there was a big instance that happened when I was like 10 or 11, chapter 4, if you have the book, that, you know, I saw something really horrific that I carried with me for a really long time. That was incredibly traumatic. And all of this trauma, I wanted to escape. I wanted to escape life. And that led me to doing a lot of drugs when I was very young. I mean, I was little. I was a child, you know? And by the time that I was 15, I had attempted suicide. I had done cocaine. I had almost died with alcohol poisoning. I mean, there were so many things that happened in my trying to escape my life.
Yeah.
That by the time I meet this person at 19, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I just want to like disappear into the sunset and babies and a white picket fence and call it a day.
Yeah.
Little did I know that it was going to be worse in that marriage.
If I'm going to guess, I'm not a psychologist, but, you know, typically people who come out of abusive environments subconsciously find abusive people because it feels familiar. Did you find yourself in that with your husband?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't physical, so I'll say that. Yeah. He wasn't a hitter. But the bullying and the emotional manipulation and just the gaslighting, you know, was enough to bring me to being suicidal again.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, taking it where you are now, you know, how has all this like just kind of shaped and formed you and brought you to the work that you're doing now? And like, what kinds of things do you do now or are you involved in from an anti-human trafficking standpoint?
Because it's taken me so long, you know, well, one, to heal myself. I feel like a lot of people go through things, realize they went through trauma, and then they try to step into helping right away, like when they haven't dealt with their own trauma.
Right.
And so that's like someone with an open wound trying to go help someone with another open wound. Right. And so I understood that very early. And I wanted to be helpful from a healed place. So honestly, I didn't do a lot of work for a really long time. So from 2016 to about the end of 2019, it was just for me, doing the work for me, getting down to the root of things.
So you were pretty involved in Landmark. Did you ever do any like therapy or anything?
It's funny. I didn't do therapy until like way later. I actually did therapy, I want to say like in 21 or 22.
Okay.
And by the time I got there, she was like, well, you've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so it was very affirming, I did therapy for 90 days and she was like, well, what do you want to work on now? It wasn't, that therapy wasn't about me. It was about some relationship things, obviously, because I have a hard time with relationships. And so that was also very enlightening with healing that trauma in relationship, right? Yeah. So to answer your question, what am I doing now? So I am currently the chairwoman of the board for an organization here in Miami called Global Innovative Foundation. And our mission is literally to eradicate human trafficking, domestic violence, and gun violence from the world. Okay. And so an incredible board. I'll give you the information so it can be linked. Incredible board of superhuman women and men who are super involved in the local community. A lot of them are in the medical profession, so they have a firsthand knowledge of survivors when they're brought out. We raise a ton of money to help law enforcement with missions, whether it's rescuing children, women with children, young people, housing them afterwards, medical attention, mental health services, legal services, literally anything and everything in between, including rehabilitation for them to, once they're in a mental place where they can like go back into society, go back into the workforce, they can get trained as well. I mean, and that requires so much money, so much funding. Right. And so if you're a business who, you want to donate X amount of money because, you need the tax write-off, we'll take that too. We'll take all the donations. And no donation is too small. Everything really does help, but, we are looking for large donors because it takes an incredible amount of money to support these survivors once they come out of these situations.
There's an organization in DC, I forget what they're called. They rescue trafficked victims as well.
There's so many organizations that are doing such incredible work that I couldn't name them all. But it's definitely good to support one. I mean, you don't have to support mine, but support one. Yeah. This is something that I know when I say $150 billion, people are like, oh, what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to do your part. Yeah. Learn what human trafficking looks like. And we can talk a little bit about that as well, because, like I said in the beginning, there are people that think that it only happens one way. One way that it happens very often in Miami are modeling agencies. Yeah. Racketeering is insane. So a racket is a business that looks like something when it actually is something else in the back, right? So there are tens of thousands of businesses like that throughout Florida that are either modeling agencies or casting agencies or a job agency that they recruit you here and they take you to Europe, right. Or vice versa. They recruit in Europe and then they bring people here. Then they have their legal documents. They hang on to the legal documents. That's how they blackmail them into labor trafficking. Yeah.
What do you see happening when people get trafficked? I mean, obviously, from in the movie The Sound of Freedom, they started with a modeling agency and then got taken to another country, and basically this person became someone's sex slave, right? Yeah. I mean, when you say labor trafficking, what's happening in that scenario?
Well, it could be, let's say, someone who came from a country as close as Mexico, right? The coyote, who's the person that takes you through the desert and brings you in.
The border situation is like a mess. Yeah.
We're not going to get political about it, but it's one of the reasons why it's so important to have a secure border. Yeah. So the coyotes take you through the border, and whatever amount of money that you paid them, they promise you to get you to a certain place. Now, in the instance of maybe someone does have a but they just need the transportation, they'll hang on to that visa. They'll hang on to the ID. They'll hang on to the passport. So that way you have no identification. So if you have a passport from a different country, you can go to your country's embassy and plead for help. When you don't have a passport, when you don't have an identification,
you're an invisible person.
Right. You disappear off the grid. Yeah. And so they know that. And so
they hold passports as blackmail.
Passports, identification, a visa, any type of document that can tell who you are.
Yeah.
You need that literally anywhere that you go.
Yeah.
So they're hanging on to their identity.
Yeah.
Which is very symbolic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the other thing too that happens a lot is clubs in Miami are the number one way that they get people. Men and women.
Really?
Yes. So, and this is not exclusive to women. A lot of men are in human trafficking, right?
Yeah.
I would say more young boys than grown men.
Right.
Grown men are the ones that are behind the ring.
Yeah.
That are doing the thing. And so the dudes with the booths and the bottles and the Lamborghini and all the cool stuff engage the young girls. They invite them up. They show them a great time.
Right.
They become their boyfriends. They shower them with gifts. They take them out to the expensive restaurant for months.
Yeah.
And then one day they're like, well, I've done all this stuff for you. I need you to do one thing for me. And they take them to wherever. Someone's house, a hotel room, a vacation to another country, and they force them to sleep with someone or many people.
Okay.
For money. They sell them.
Yeah.
And so that's trafficking.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a case, I don't remember if it was late last year or earlier this year in France, where a man had trafficked his wife.
Wow.
In their house. He had, I thought it was like 2,000 hours of strange men abusing his wife on their bed in their house.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is when a husband can traffic a wife, you know,
yeah.
like
well, this is interesting to me because especially the Miami thing. It's funny because you see like a lot of women who seem to want that kind of treatment in Miami, the the nice restaurants and the nice cars and all that, and it seems like it almost feels too good to be true.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. If it's
literally
happening, on the regular.
Yeah.
And then do these women get stuck in this
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you get out?
Yeah.
This person, if they take you to a different country, they have your passport. If they booked a flight, especially if it's a private flight, you're not going through TSA.
Yeah.
You're not getting your passport stamped.
Yeah.
It's a different procedure.
Yeah.
So these are $150 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah.
These are sophisticated people. The businesses look legit. There are people working at those agencies that have no idea that it's a front.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone will say, hey, this feels funny. And they're like, no. They're outstanding people. Look at all the reviews. And it looks like a legit business.
Yeah.
And that's the trap.
So you could meet someone at a club in Miami, think you're being wined and dined, and then all of a sudden you're taking on a lovely vacation to some other country via jet, and you're like, oh wow, I've got this amazing guy who's so rich, and then before you know it, you're like stuck in this kind of trafficked cycle where you're forced to have sex with other people.
It happens all the time.
That's crazy.
It is crazy because, again, back to my original comment, we're in an era where people use people and love things.
Yeah.
People are being used as products, as commodities that can be bought and sold. And the problem with that mentality is that a human, as long as it's living and breathing, can be used over and over and over again.
Right.
The stories are incredibly heartbreaking of these young women, children, boys and girls, that get sold up to 70 times a day.
Jeez.
I mean...
And are people like at clubs, are people getting like roofied or drugged or something like that?
I mean, there's a lot of women that go willingly.
Yeah.
Because they're... And here's the deal also, is that they're looking for people who are insecure.
Right.
Who are gullible. That's why they target really young people.
Yeah.
That's the target.
Right,
but it can
right.
happen to anyone.
Yeah,
right.
totally.
Older woman who is lonely at a club can be just as
Plus,
susceptible.
you have so many people who come to Miami from other countries, and
Yeah.
they don't know much about America
Yeah.
yet, and
Yeah.
they don't understand the complexity of things
Yeah.
sometimes. I remember when I moved to New York, it was just so much more complex than anything I'd ever seen, and I really grew up in the first 5 years there just because
You had to. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know what was, you just had to. So, like, just that world is so complex.
Yeah.
What would you say is kind of a telltale sign of something fishy happening in this world? Like
So many things.
If you saw it in public.
We'll start with the children. If you're out in public, and it's hard because we live in such a racially mixed community. So a mom could look like me and my child be blonde, blue eyes, or could be curly haired with darker skin. I mean, literally, it's hard now because normally you're like, well, if the child doesn't match the parent, if it's a child that doesn't match the parent, very likely, right? Happens all the time.
Right.
That doesn't want to be around that adult. It's a child who doesn't want to be around the adult. The adult is, first of all, there's an adult that's being abusive to a child. Open your eyes, right? Sometimes it's a difficult child. How do you train your eye to tell if it's a difficult child or a child that doesn't want to be with that adult because they don't have a relation to that adult? So that's kind of a bit of a gray area, right?
Yeah.
Happens a lot at airports.
Yeah.
On planes.
How does it happen on a plane?
Well, I'm saying like an adult who's traveling with a child.
Oh, I see.
A child that is,
Yeah.
is weary of this adult.
That was kind of in the movie Sound of Freedom. They were like the older man with the younger kid. It looked like a mismatch, which is what kind of tipped off the cop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you ask the adult about details of the child and they don't know them, if that's the parent, they will.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
The parent's identification should match the child's identification. Addresses should be the same.
Right. Well, you can't really.
Well, if you're a police officer, or if you're a border patrol,
if you're a cop,
you can report. You can always report. They can always look into it.
Yeah.
Don't ever approach someone yourself. Please don't do that. If you see something, say something. Honestly, that's the number one thing that I can say. So many lives can be saved. When we had the Super Bowl here. So let's talk about that. When we had the Super Bowl here.
Yeah, the Super Bowl is a huge trafficking event.
We have FIFA coming up. So next year we have the World Cup.
Right.
And so what to look out for, things like that. So we're gonna get a lot of comments with what I'm gonna say next.
Yeah.
So strip clubs, right?
Right.
For the Super Bowl, there was something called a stripathon.
Okay.
Hundreds of young women fled the city for this whole thing called stripathon. At the end, they were promised prizes. They were promised
They fled to the city.
They fled to the city. They were promised that they were going to get taken care of with hotels. They were promised that they were going to get taken care of with income. Whatever, I mean, pie in the sky type of stuff. At the end of the day, these were firsthand accounts that I heard from women that were here for that. They were stranded at airports for days. They got none of the income that they stripped for the entire week. They were selling themselves. And there was a club, which I obviously can't say what the club was, very well-known club here in Miami. The money was up to the knees. And they're like, and if you touch a single dollar, we will kill you.
Wow.
So they used them to generate this money.
Well, there's no honor in the den of thieves.
and then, they were shipped off to the airport with no money, no way of getting back home, and no hope.
Yeah.
And no resources.
Wow,
And
that's crazy. I mean, it's fascinating to me, just the level of desperation, especially amongst women.
Because they're unprotected. I mean, we can go down this whole rabbit hole, but it's the same thing that happens with fatherless households where the young men usually tend to go to criminal activity or drug use or drug selling.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with the women. So a girl that grows up without a dad doesn't have a covering, doesn't have a protection. So
Yeah.
she goes to look for that somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's usually, and I hate to say the cliche, but it's usually in the wrong places. Why? Because it looks good.
Yeah.
And those men know what to look for.
Yeah.
And women, because there's a lot of women traffickers, like in The Sound of Freedom, who are accomplices, also know what to look for.
Yeah.
They prey on the vulnerability of young women that are not covered, they're not protected, they're not secure.
Yeah.
You know, so whether they're in a situation where they're in an abusive situation at home that they're trying to escape, or just, you know, the desperation of poverty, or the desperation of lack of resources, being sold, again, pie in the sky stories, or you're going to be famous, you're going to be rich, we're going to pay you this, once we get there, we're going to pay you, once you do this, we're going to pay you. Promises that never come.
Yeah.
And it's,
what's so fascinating to me is that, especially in Miami, there's, especially on social media, there's this lifestyle that is sold to everyone here. I mean, you always see just different videos like, oh, you know, these people have these cars and they're living in the penthouse in tower in Miami, and they're going out to all the nice restaurants all the time, and you know, they're out at Poppy Steak or, you know, whatever, you know, Milo or whatever restaurant.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating to me, based on what you're telling me, is that potentially this could be
fake.
A total trap.
It's a trap.
A total setup
It's a trap.
For a trafficking operation.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that everyone that's there is that.
No, of course. But
it's because of
sometimes
how
if
big,
it looks too good, it probably is too good to be true.
Because of how big this is, it's a big percentage of people that are doing it,
and
right?
it's a big. I mean, obviously, it's super lucrative. And it's. Miami is definitely a hotspot for it.
Let me tell you something. So, as an interior designer, working in downtown, working with these beautiful luxury buildings, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a balcony looking at the project with a client or by myself.
Right.
And you look up and you can see what's happening in these balconies through these windows.
Like, what do you mean you can?
Like sexual activity.
Oh, like you're like literally
like
looking,
you're just minding your own business and it's in your face.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't know if that's recreational, if that's someone filming something. You know, the porn industry fuels human trafficking.
Yeah, how does that work exactly?
So, well, you know, you have someone trapped. You have someone held hostage, whether it's with their identity. There's women who willingly want to participate and then quickly see themselves trafficked because they change their minds and then they're not able to leave.
Yeah.
So as a model myself, I've been in situations where I just see too many cameras, and then slowly but surely the suggestion is, oh, slide this strap here.
Right.
Take off this here. Do this here. Do this pose. Where I've had to, I literally have walked into situations where I'm seeing what they're asking other women to do, and I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And I leave, and they don't want me to leave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you don't let me leave right now, I'm going to shut this down very quickly.
Yeah.
You don't want this fire.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because I've asked women to come with me, and they don't want to go.
Right.
And so
Stockholm syndrome.
That's the hard part. It's like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you to come with me because this does not feel safe.
So that's interesting. You mentioned that you've done modeling in Miami. I mean, I would imagine that can be murky waters on some level.
It definitely is. And I feel like,
because there's not really agencies here repping models, right?
Not as big as, New York or LA.
Yeah.
But there is Miami Fashion Week. There is Fort Lauderdale Fashion Week. So we do have a fashion presence here. And there are casting calls that happen here for those particular shows, for those particular events. But a lot of like the boat shows hire models for the little lounges that are in front of the boats. So there is activity here. Again, not as big as LA or New York.
Do you feel like this stuff happens on boats all the time too? Like a lot of...
Oh, of course. You're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Exactly.
Where are you going?
Exactly.
So, like these booze cruises or these boat parties or... I've been on those, and I'm just like...
Yeah.
And there have been situations where I have found myself where they turn out okay. They're not great. They turn out okay.
Right.
But later I get back to shore and I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
It was right in the line.
It was like right in the line of like, this could have went south real quick.
Yeah.
And I got on the boat willingly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where the experiences that I've been through as a child opened my eyes to a lot of things that I feel like people are still closed to, you know what I mean? Like their eyes are not open to those things. So I walk into a situation, into a party, the first thing I look for is exits.
Yeah.
You know, my brain is like, okay, if this goes south, how am I going to protect myself?
Yeah.
And a lot of women don't think like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, men also don't think about their. I mean, when was the last time you thought about your safety in a public place?
Totally.
The fact that you're 6'4" helps.
6'5".
Okay.
I worked for that extra inch.
But you know,
No, yeah. I mean, as a guy, it's totally different.
You know what I mean?
I remember I went on a date once, and this girl very eloquently said, she said, the worst thing that could happen to you on a date is that the girl shows up and she's ugly and doesn't look like her pictures. You know, the worst thing that can happen to me is that I get raped. And I'm
killed.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, fair point. You know, no, it's, as a guy, the concept of security is totally different.
Yeah.
Just especially when you're my size. And look, but I'll tell you, I mean, even when I've lived in other cities where, like, I remember when I lived in Atlanta, I mean, the crime was so out of control there that I carried a gun regularly. I mean, I just felt like it was insane. It was just crazy. There were shootings all the time. Wow. But no, totally. As a woman, it's a different thing. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like there's this cloud of naivete that's happened in the last couple of years, like the last generation, honestly.
Yeah.
Where we're so distracted with our phones that we're not looking up.
Yeah.
And really seeing what's happening in the world. It's a very misinformed generation. We're so caught up in the makeup and the car and
right.
you know.
Everyone just cares about how you look.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm so grateful for, and I will forever be grateful to that man. I don't remember his name, but it was my first boss that I moved to Miami to work for.
Yeah.
A design company. I think like a week into my job, he could tell that I wasn't from around here. And he literally sat me he sat me in his office and he was like, look, I just want to help you. Don't be intimidated by anything that you see. The Rovers, he's like, except mine. I bought mine. The Rovers, the Rolls Royce, the multi-million-dollar apartments, 90% of all of that is rented.
Yeah.
It's for the look.
Or funded by
criminal activity
or
if you know anything about the history of how Miami was founded.
We've done a lot of drug conversations here.
So if you know anything about the history of Miami,
yeah.
We're not going to name names.
Yeah.
But those are still organizations that are still around.
Yeah.
Right? And
there's a lot of, there's probably a good amount of drug money from South America that's parked their money in real estate here, and, you know.
How do you justify a building where the starting price is $5 million and the entire building is sold out?
Yeah.
Yet people can't afford their rent in Miami.
Yeah.
Multiple buildings, whole strips of buildings on the beach or here in downtown or in Brickell.
Right.
Where is all this money coming from?
Yeah.
You know, so
it's super fascinating. And I'm kind of like having this, like, you know, in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, this whole Miami dream that is portrayed to everyone online, this could potentially be a front for human trafficking.
Trap.
Yeah.
And he told me that. He's like, look, with the women, and no offense to anyone, but the women with the tight outfits and the boobs and the thing, and the guys with the chains and the tattoos, don't be intimidated by any of that.
Yeah.
90% of that is fake.
Yeah.
They don't own the planes. They don't own the cars.
Yeah.
The moment that the money stops flowing, all of that goes away.
Right,
so don't be intimidated by that.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was like the biggest favor that could have been done to me, because honestly, it literally helped me see the truth of that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you, and here's an experiment for all of y'all. Those influencers, I forgot his name, but the guy that like has this like super crazy routine with like the ice bucket and the whatever his name is, because I don't even follow him.
I don't either.
He had like an $18,000 a month apartment or whatever. Yeah. It went into eviction.
Yeah.
Look, forget what you're seeing on Instagram.
Yeah.
Look at the eviction rate of those type of luxury buildings.
Yeah.
Or the leases, you know, because you can lease a penthouse for 3 months.
Yeah.
right? Between 18 people. Or you can live in Brickell, because it happens all the time. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. 6 people live there,
Yeah.
just to have a Brickell address.
Yeah.
In 22 or 23, there was a video that was sent to me, and it was streamed live. Brickell.
Yeah.
Where the woman kept hearing pounding on the wall. And she's like, there's a guy that I know that lives there, and he's never there. Who could possibly be pounding on the wall?
Right.
Long story short, people were living inside the wall. He was trafficking and harboring people in his apartment in Brickell.
Oh, wow.
She found out because the person broke through her laundry room.
That's crazy.
They literally broke through the wall.
Yeah.
Through the drywall.
So they had been trapped.
The police was caught. I mean, it was a big news story.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
And somebody sent me the live story. The person was live streaming. Like, where is this coming from? And they literally live streamed the person breaking through the drywall.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that's interesting. That it's just, there's a whole other layer.
Containers of women being found at Port Miami.
Yeah. There's been a handful of those incidents. Yeah. So tell me,
I know much.
You. Yeah,
it's a lot.
I know you wrote a book 6 months ago.
Yes.
Tell me about what inspired you to write the book.
Wow. Okay. So 2017. I'm in the middle of all of this with myself. Navigating what I just found out about this situation. Other traumas are surfacing. My separation to my ex-husband happened in 2014. The divorce was finalized in early 2016. And by 2017, it's heavy. I'm not in a good place mentally. Mm-hmm. At that point, I had already found my church, but I was still kind of navigating my way back to Jesus at that point. The low point that obviously triggered me searching for a church was the actual divorce. And the 2 years of the separation were horrible. And so at this point, I get a vision. I'm driving my car to work. It's a crazy rainy afternoon where, you don't see anything beyond your car. And I get this vision. I hear this, like, I'm driving, I'm awake, I'm driving to work. And I get this vision of this like thunderous clapping. And then it just goes deadly silent. And don't laugh. I hear Oprah.
You get a car. And you get a car.
Welcome everybody. Today we have New York bestselling author Anel De Castro on our couch. She's going to talk about her last, best-selling book.
Yeah.
And then more clapping, and then I come back to driving in the car.
Yeah.
And that was so overwhelming because God had been, anytime that I had shared little bits of my story, usually one-on-one or in small groups, at church or with people that I knew, the response was always the same. You got to write a book. You got to write a book. I mean, years of you got to write a book. And when that happened, I was like, okay, Jesus, let's write this book.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to start because I don't even journal.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the lies of the enemy are so prevalent because I kept telling myself, even recently, well, I'm not a journaler. I'm not a writer. And in the middle of that, I was moving and I found a journal that I had kept. And the earliest entry in that journal, I was basically like 13 years old. And it was a short story. And not to pat myself on the back, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I just kept reading. And like when I was 16 and 17 and 21. And I'm like, wow, I'm not a consistent journaler, but I am a writer. For sure.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of propelled me into like, actually like, okay, God, we're going to do this. Fine. Send me people.
Yeah.
I need help. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
And so, at that time, I was very involved. As an interior designer, I was very involved with a lot of realtors, a lot of brokers. And a lot of them were like writing books at that time. A lot of them were in whatever field that they were specializing in, publishing books. So I found myself surrounded by people who had published books.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of questions, and led me down the path to meet my writing coach that I ended up hiring, helping me.
Cool.
And that was in like early 19. We started kind of, the process of thinking about what I wanted to write. And when it came down to it, I just wanted to tell my testimony, from my mom being told that she wouldn't have more kids after my brother, to what happened when I was 5, to the several other things, the other places where God had literally rescued me out of crazy situations that I found myself in as a young child, to all of the lessons that I learned being married and then separated and divorced. And how I had given my heart to Jesus, and how he changed my heart, how he healed my heart, the wisdom that he gave me. And I just wanted to share that with people.
Yeah.
The pandemic happens. And so we get to work. We record the entire manuscript in those 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the pandemic.
That was a good time to write a book.
Yeah.
A lot of writing took place that year.
And so we recorded, we audio recorded it, turned it into a manuscript, and it was like that big. And so quickly we realized that we couldn't publish all of that. And we need to break it down to separate books.
Yeah, edit it.
And so in the editing process, there, I had a lot to process, I had to put myself back into those stories to be able to like recall certain details and really tell the story, but also make it an interesting read, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I really wanted to keep it as true as possible. Every detail that I included are things that I actually remember. They're not embellished. That was actually something that was really important to me, to really tell the story the way it happened.
Sure.
And that was in 2020. A lot of things happened between stop and go, processing, therapy, more landmark. I finished the manuscript, has been published in early 24. And even at that point, I really had to sit with it. And I'm like, there's no going back once I put this out in the world.
Yeah.
And the conviction of 20 million people being enslaved.
Yeah.
And really doing something about it.
Yeah.
Not just posting.
Right.
Not just having conversations in private. Really actually doing something about it.
Yeah.
So I aligned the organization that I'm a chairwoman of, I had met our president in 2019, shortly after I had hired Mark Feinberg, who's my coach. And when we had that conversation, I was like, I want to create something that helps human trafficking survivors. And the organization didn't even exist at that point. We were both ideating. And I'm like, well, I have a book that I'm working on. I'd love to tie it to this organization by donating a certain amount. And so I have pledged $100,000 of the proceeds to this organization, because, you gotta walk the walk.
Yeah.
Right. And so I didn't write this book to sell books. I wrote this book to raise money, because, like I said, there's an insurmountable amount of money to continue this work. And so 30% of the proceeds of the book, or any event that I do until we reach that number, will be donated back to the organization.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Anel, for sharing this story. I mean, it's been really eye-opening to me, just that I'm like, my God, there's like all these psyops going on in Miami that are freaking human trafficking fronts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I mean, it's crazy. But, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know this has been kind of a tough one to get through, but we'll put all your information in the description below, your Instagram, as well as the link to your book.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for sharing your story. This has been super fascinating. And I think this will leave listeners with a lot of just interesting insights that most of us probably didn't know about what goes on in the human trafficking world.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And before we go, I do want to share some stats.
Yeah.
Because they're staggering, and they need to be said. Every 10 seconds, a child disappears in the United States.
Yeah.
That amounts to about 800,000 children every year. And we don't have news stories, and there's no riots, and there's no burning buildings for the children that are missing.
Yeah.
And that for me is like infuriating.
Yeah.
Because yes, there are a lot of things that are happening that are very important, and they are important. But this is our children.
Right.
This is literally an attack on the future generations, and they're disappearing. We don't find mass graves of children, so they're not being killed.
Yeah.
They're being held somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I want anyone who's listening to this to really grasp that. And that could be anybody.
Yeah.
Literally anybody. 20 million people are enslaved today, which is more than at any point in history. Human slavery has not been abolished.
Yeah.
It is still active and very well, hate to call it thriving, but $150 billion is proof
Yeah.
that there is a demand. There is a demand for it.
Yeah.
So we talked about porn. Porn fuels the human trafficking industry. If we stop the demand for porn,
Yeah.
we automatically put a real big dent in that need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the average person who purchases sex from a minor or purchases or downloads CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material,
Yeah.
is the average white male.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it means that it's happening here. It's not in some off country, third world country in the Pacific Ocean. No, it's right here.
Yeah.
And we need to open our eyes, and we need to be enraged enough to make a difference. And this starts with every single person. You can do something today. It's a big industry, but if we all did something, there's 350 million people in America. If we all did something, we can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing all that. And wow, what an episode, and what just, a lot of, it's so sad that all of this is kind of just lurking beneath the city, So thank you again for coming. I really hope that people, reach out to you, and this touches people in a way that will affect change.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. See you.